So a while back, I tested every single ND filter except for one, and I got absolutely roasted for it. So today we are back once and for all. I've got practically 99% of every ND filter. There's also some brand new ones, and we are putting everything head to head so you do not waste your money and buy the right ND filter for you. By the way, no brand has paid me a single cent to make this video, but this video is sponsored by myself. If you're new here, I'm Andy, full-time content creator who posts way too much on Instagram, and I've put these ND filters to the test while travel filmmaking, recording terabytes of footage. Content creation has allowed me to quit my job and chase my dreams, and if you want to learn the skills to crush short-form content creation, consider having a look at the Creators Playbook, where I teach viral strategies, editing techniques, and filmmaking skills that's made leaving the 9-to-5 possible. Anyway, let's go over some crucial criteria that everyone should consider when they are buying a variable ND filter. First of all, I cannot stress how important it is to have an ND filter that has hard stops. It stops there, from here to here, and that is so important when you are filming, you're taking photos, because it's just so annoying when you're looking at the ND filter trying to figure out where it is, where the arrow is, and you keep spinning, and you get these weird artifacts. Trust me, prioritize getting a hard stop ND filter. Secondly, I mentioned this before, but everyone needs to know about polarization. Basically, in an ideal world, every ND filter should be able to spin so that you can change the polarization. Polarization is basically the ability to cut glares off of glass, for example, and you can literally see it right here. If you look at the computer in background, if I twist this ND filter, I haven't actually changed the exposure at all, but because due to the magic of physics, that has gotten darker just by turning the entire ND filter and not actually changing exposure. And long story short, we need ND filters to be able to rotate freely so we can control this, because what if I wanted to show you this screen, then if your ND filter is fixed, you'd have to like unscrew it and do some weird stuff in order to like make it black or like show it, for example. Now, another thing people love talking about is color shifting when it comes to ND filters. And it is important, but if you are a run and gun shooter by yourself and you're using the same ND filter for all your lenses, then it's fine. A lot of these filters that I'm going to recommend, you can switch onto every ND filter so you won't have this problem. On top of that, it literally takes about a few seconds to change this color shift in post when you're color grading, so it's really not that big of a deal. And this only matters if you're working with a ton of lenses, each with a separate ND filter, or you are in a team project and everyone's shooting on different lenses. Long story short, it matters, but it doesn't really matter that much in my opinion. Now, really quickly, I've addressed this before, but how many actual stops of ND filter darkening do you actually need? There's 3 to 7 stops, 1 to 5, 2 to 6. If you have an f2.8 lens, for example, 16 to 35, f2.8, you need a 3 to 7 stop ND filter. I found that is the perfect amount of darkening that you only need one ND filter and you can control everything in any situation. 3 stops does get a bit dark when it's like blue hour, for example, but in that case, honestly, it's worth just cranking the ISO to your second base ISO. If, however, you have a prime lens, for example, an f1.4 lens, you're going to have to get a more expensive ND filter that covers anything from like 1 to 9 stops, for example. On the brightest, sunniest days, you'd need like 9 stops in order to block the light sufficiently, and I will make mention of the ND filters that can actually do that. If you're a little confused, don't worry, we'll go through a full buying guide at the end of this video. Alright, so finally, let's get into the first ND filter, which is the infamous Nisi Jetmag Pro system. I got roasted so much for not reviewing this in the past, and the reason for that is they had no variable ND filter like I have on the camera right now. Previously, you had to carry like 4 ND filters in your pocket and switch them separately whenever you're filming, and that's so inconvenient. It's safe to say the wait was worth it, and it is an amazing piece of gear. Let's go through the pros of this ND filter system. There's not much vignetting, which is nice. The color casting is also fairly minimal. You can see in this photo here, maybe slightly blue, but it's a lot better than other ND filters. I should also mention that every variable ND filter is going to have some type of vignetting at wide angle lenses. Once you're beyond 35mm, you basically won't see any vignetting from that point on. So with that in mind, if you have a 35mm lens, 50mm lens, you don't even have to care about vignetting. It's safe to say on 24mm, the vignetting is very, very minimal, which is great. On a wide angle lens, you'll see it always, but that's just life really. This one ND filter kit can basically work on all your lenses, which is nice. In the kit, they include the base plates, which is something that a lot of companies don't do so they can make some more money. So it's very appreciated they included this. And it also blocks a full 1 to 9 stops of light, which is the best part about this whole system. That means I can use this on all my prime lenses, f1.4, brightest day. It works great. And you can stack this 4-stop ND filter and then you can block even more light. Now this system is honestly amazing. However, what's not super amazing is the price. It comes in about like $600 for the whole kit. It's also very important to note, you can only stack 2 ND filters before you can start to actually see them. So basically you can only use the variable ND filter and the mist filter, or you can switch that out for the extra 4-stop ND filter. It's a bit of a shame, but honestly probably for the best, because you don't want this ND filter to be ginormous. The magnetic system on the Jetmag Pro is also super convenient. Basically pull them apart, click them together, and they are together, no worries. And basically there is a small marking on the top of the whole kit, and basically if you turn the tabs and line it up with the marking on the lens, the ND filters basically lock and you can't pull them apart no matter what I do. Now that whole system is super convenient and I really like it, but the one thing I'd really change is I would increase the area for which the ND filter locks. If that's a little confusing, basically this whole area here is the only place where the ND filters actually lock. The second you turn a little bit off there, you can just instantly take the filters off. And then as you can see, naturally when you use these filters, they might slip and slide and all of a sudden your ND filters aren't actually locked anymore, which is not good. I've already had a time where a chunk of the ND filter was like gone. I was like, where the heck is it? Thankfully, it was in my bag, but it's something to worry about. So moving on to a sneaky ND filter that Haida never mentioned. It's called the Nano Pro. It's got a little like blue line on it. That's how you can tell. And this is basically a stock standard ND filter. You screw it on, you can't change the polarization. It's basically just a solid ND filter with hard stops. So this is a 1:5 version and there's also a 6:9 version. And overall, it's a very solid ND filter. The vignetting is very minimal given this is the 1:5 version. I'm sure there's more vignetting on the 6:9 version. And the color shifting may be the best by a hair. Now this ND filter is for people who will only leave it on one lens. And if you want to switch from the 1:5 and the 6:9 stop, you're just going to have to unscrew everything like the olden days. That all being said, it's fairly cheap and affordable, and it's a really good option if you are okay with that. Now moving on, we have another candidate for the best ND filter in the game, and this is the Freewell Locking ND filter. I think that is its name. I don't think it has a real name, but it's basically a 3 to 7 stop ND filter, as you can see here. And there is an extra ND filter which you can twist on and it locks on. You can hold it completely in place and it covers the whole ND filter range, perfect for prime lenses as well. Overall, this is an amazing system, but you might be wondering, where is my extra ND filter which you can lock on? Well, basically I broke it. I took it off, put it in my back pocket, sat down, and the next thing you know, I have glass in my pants. Keep in mind, I'm 68 kilos, about like 150 pounds. I'm not the heaviest guy in the world, but I do admit it was my fault. I should not have left it in my back pocket, but you can comment on the durability however you like. At 7 stops, you can see a bit of vignette, and honestly, I think it's usable. And really, it's all good except for a few minor things. First of all, the locking ND filter is a bit finicky and kind of annoying to use. When you compare it to the Polar Pro system where you can click on and the Jetmag Pro, they're so much more convenient and more intuitive. I still fiddled with it from time to time, even after doing over a dozen shoots. I think a telltale sign is that my girlfriend actually knew how to work all my ND filters except for this one. Another thing which is slightly annoying as well is that 3 to 7 stops is great. It covers a whole range of scenarios, especially for f2.8 lenses, but when it gets darker, closer to sunsets, 3 stops of ND filter is almost too dark most of the time. When you compare this to the Jetmag Pro, having that 1:5 is perfect for basically every lighting condition. That's also meant when you put the extra ND filter on the Freewell, it gets very dark, and the only time you would use that is if you have an f1.4 prime lens and it's a super sunny day. And that's why it kind of existed in my back pocket, and that's why I forgot about it. Personally for me, I would prefer to have everything on the lens mostly, but on the flip side, it's also good to mainly have a very small profile, which is more convenient. So there's arguments for both. But one definitive con is that the base plates cost extra money, about $30 each. So if you have extra lenses, you're going to have to pay up. And personally, I'm not a big fan of that because that is so expensive. Just include them into the package. They probably cost a few dollars to make. So now I'm going to rapid fire some of the ND filters I covered in my previous video. If you want to see the full in-depth breakdowns, check that out. But I'm going to give some updates and give you a very quick summary. First of all, the Freewell V2 ND filter. Unfortunately, I lost it because one of the screws fell out, and then I guess once you change the polarization, it's loose, and next thing you know, I guess it just fell off somewhere and it's gone. That kinda is a bit of a trend for Freewell filters, is there's a lot of moving parts, so you really need to take extra good care of them. Clearly, I have not done a good job on that, so that's on me. But overall, that is a great 3 to 7 stop ND filter. At 7 stops, the vignette is quite strong on a wider lens, but overall, it's really good. You also can't use it on really bright days with a prime lens because it's only capped at 7 stops. I do also believe you have to buy extra base plates, which isn't great too. But overall, it is a great system and perfect for your f2.8 lenses. Next, the Haida 3 to 7 stop ND filter. It's an amazing filter which does also have a bit more vignette at the 7 stop range like all do. It has continually lived on my 7200 to this day. This is probably the ND filter I've never switched. I would recommend it, but keep in mind you cannot take it off easily and it's not quick switchable. It's also important to note that this is fairly cheap. So if you want an ND filter just for one lens, it's super slim as well. I would highly recommend it, and it's literally been glued to this lens. One thing I have noticed is that this part here has kind of bent down a little bit, maybe because I've been shoving this in my bag a bit too much, but I just bent it backwards and it's still fine. Would recommend. The Freewell K2 system works perfect for any lens. You can mount it and it has all these base plates included. It works for prime lenses and works for basically anything you want. However, it is super bulky and not great for traveling at all. It really increases the footprint of your lens and it might not fit in your bag anymore, which is not good. So I would only recommend it for working professionals. If you are a professional and don't mind dealing with a bigger size, it's honestly one of the best ND filters out there, just not great for my needs. Let's quickly talk about the dreaded K&F filters. They are super dirt cheap, which is probably the best part about the lens, but they introduce ugly vignettes. A lot of them don't have hard stops so you can spin them around forever, which again is not good. And it's literally even made my lens soft and blurry. I sent it in repair and they told me nothing was wrong, so I look like an idiot. I would only buy a K&F filter if you are really on a budget, or you're trying to put this on a lens that's maybe like 35mm and tighter, and maybe you can just leave it on and forget about it. Otherwise, I would really just buy a different option. Let's quickly chat about the Helix Maglock system, the Ferrari of ND filters like I mentioned before, and they are definitely the most expensive things you can buy. Both when added together come over $600 and the base plates are an extra like $30 each. So all of a sudden you can pay nearly like $700, $800 for some ND filters, which is kind of crazy. I will admit the locking on system is probably the best and most convenient, although you can't really change the polarization on this lens, which is a trade-off I'm okay with having. There is quite a color shift on these lenses, but if you're a solo production like I mentioned, it doesn't really matter. Now let's answer the million-dollar question, what ND filter should you buy? This is with everything considered, Nisi, all these brand new ND filters, and I think if money was not a problem, the best ND filter in this bunch is the Nisi Jetmag Pro VND kit. The kit that I have has the mist filter, has the VND, and also the 4-stop ND, which you can all mix and match. I do believe it's over $600, but at least it contains all the base plates, which is nice. But if you factor in money, this Freewell locking system is going to be about like $200 cheaper, which is a significant amount of money. Are the Nisi ones worth that much more? I don't think so. Everyone is different, so unless there is a feature of either of these ND filters that you don't like, you can swing between the Nisi Jetmag Pro or this Freewell locking ND filter. I do think the magnetic system of the Jetmag Pro is more convenient than this, if that matters to you. But personally for me, I think it's a little hard to justify an extra $200. Both of these systems can have a mist filter if you're interested in that. So given the price, I will give the Freewell a little bit of an edge, but there's just little things like having an ND filter on the camera. I broke this in my back pocket that make me like the Jetmag Pro more, and I will probably use that. But if I had to buy these all again, I probably would stick to the Freewell, even though it's a little bit worse in my opinion. Take that and spend your money however you like. Now that's the best overall ND filter system, which you can have one ND filter and place it on all your lenses. But if you just have an f2.8 lens and you don't really want to switch them out, grab the Haida. The Haida is a great ND filter. It's really good. You can control the polarization. It's very slim, low profile, and it's cheaper than everything too. If you do only have f2.8 lenses, I still stand by the Freewell V2 ND filter. It does cost more because you need to buy base plates, but at least you can switch it out a little bit. You do have to do some unscrewing to change the ND filter, which is a little bit annoying. But if you only have f2.8 lenses, you don't need all this extra NDs that go on top. So I wouldn't buy the Jetmag Pro or this extra locking system. Now lastly, ND filter is better than no ND filter. So if you're really on a budget, you can buy some K&F filters. Like I said, the only times I would buy it is if you have a lens that's 35mm or more zoomed in, or you just have a stubborn lens that you can't be bothered changing all the time, and it's cheap enough that you can literally just slap one on your lens and leave it there forever. Just make sure you test the quality, because sometimes they are a bit defective and make everything blurry. So make sure you double check before you go on a trip. That is it from me. I hope you make the right decision when you buy some ND filters, because these have a ridiculous range, all the way from like $700 to like $30. Make sure you pick the right one for your use case, and I'll catch you in the next one.